Hey everybody, it's Meredith Miller here answering your Asana Q&As on Mondays. Remember, I'm leaving the link below this video. If you would like to ask a question, you can click on that link. You must be logged into my website in order to see and gain access to that page. That helps me keep everybody accountable given the security issues we had last month. So again, if you want me to answer your question within 48 hours personally via email, you want to use the personal email support option on my website, innerintegration.com. If you don't mind waiting a while, then you can submit it on this page for Q&As. I have a really long list of questions right now, and I'm only going to get through some of them, week by week, and they just keep adding up, okay? I'm happy to be here answering your questions. I just want to tell you, if you have more urgency to get your question answered, please check out my paid services on my website. So this question comes from a young lady who says, "Hi Meredith, I am just starting to go no contact. I knew it was time with my return to Facebook, feeling a ridiculous toxic energy. I knew whoever was causing it would reveal themselves eventually, especially with the new changes happening in my life. Is it this hard with everyone you go no contact with? I noticed as I was engaging in this toxic conversation, a lot of my PTSD was coming up. My heart was beating out of my chest, slamming in my skull. This conversation was going nowhere fast. Immediately, I knew he was not going to take what I had to say the way I meant for him to take it, twisting and turning every response I gave. Even after I blocked this person, I started to panic. I knew he was not the only toxic person in my friends list. I immediately went to my friends list and deleted anyone associated to my parents or siblings, then realized some of my immediate family was part of the deletion. I did go back and add some of them again because I'm aware my anxiety could have gotten the best of me, or did it? With my anxiety, it's hard to judge. I deleted about 150 people. Is this a good sign that I was able to recognize that feeling, or was it me projecting my PTSD? Thank you for what you do, Meredith. You're helping me see the light every day. I'm happy that you are seeing the light, and I'm happy that you are putting into practice this no contact, right? So here's the thing. Yes, no contact is hard. It's always hard. You're always going to be second guessing yourself and doubting. Even when it's so obvious, there's always going to be that second guess and doubting because you have a conscience, because it's really hard to cut people off, and because it's not the thing that you would do with most people. It's just that the traditional rules of human engagement do not apply to people without a conscience, to manipulators, because they have no conscience, right? When they see right and wrong, they don't care. They can easily choose wrong and it won't even bother them. They don't have any sense of guilt about that, right? So you can't approach a person like that under the same understandings of agreements of how we interact with other people. Normally you would have a conversation with a person that you were having a struggle with or a difficulty in communication, but there is no sane conversation with a manipulator because they will always twist it around. Just like you said, everything you were saying, this person was twisting around, right? And you were trying to explain yourself, and then it just got worse, and what they did was just attack you probably for that. That's when you stop immediately. As soon as you see that, just stop. Make that be a new trigger for you. As soon as someone starts twisting your stuff around, your words around, your intentions, just stop engaging. Stop defending yourself. Stop engaging. It takes a huge effort to do that because your natural reaction is going to be to vindicate yourself, to defend yourself, to explain how that's not what you meant, how that's not what you did, but that, this person did. Never mind any of that. Just stop engaging, stop answering immediately. Okay, and that person, what's going to happen, they're probably going to get more and more aggressive, right? Or they try another strategy. If the aggression doesn't work and the guilt tripping doesn't work, and the blame shifting, then they're going to move to the sweetness, and then they're going to try to sweeten you into the contact again and tell you how much concern they have for you, and might even tell you, "I'm so worried about you because I noticed that you have this predator on your Facebook friends list." I can't tell you how many times I've heard that from toxic people. As soon as you hear that kind of stuff, stop engaging. Don't defend yourself. Don't defend your actions. Just stop right there. Okay, here's the thing about the PTSD, about the anxiety, the hypervigilance, right? The hypervigilance is when you walk outside and like your awareness is everywhere. Like you're not in some other world. You're not dissociated. You're not checked out. You're not like everybody else looking on their cell phones and blah, blah, blah. You are like, it's like you have like the volume is like totally turned up on your sensory experience. You are fully aware of everything around you. You can tell me exactly what that person was wearing who just passed you, and what, you know, the mom, and she had 3 kids, and it was a girl and 2 boys, and like this person over there is doing that, and that person's doing that. It's like literally you've developed a superhero power of hypervigilance. Like that's a power that people who are training to be special operatives and intel, for example, like they go through training which creates that hypervigilance, you know, and then they become like a super agent because they have this hypervigilance. Essentially, yes, they have PTSD. They've been through some kind of trauma-based mind control thing in their programming, and now they are very, very aware of what's going on. It's part of the PTSD, but at the same time, it's also a superhero power. If you learn how to channel that in the right way, if you learn to use that to your benefit, yes, your anxiety is like amplified compared to a normal person. You're having this like Facebook conversation, and like it feels like you're facing like a lion. It's like you could just see this lion like charging you and breathing on you, and like you feel like this lion's gonna eat you, right? Like that's the physiological reaction happening in your body. That's the anxiety that you're feeling. So you recognize that that is a sign. You have to trust that. Like when the anxiety is through the roof, something's not right. You know, the only filter you want to be careful of is the anxiety exactly related to this, or is it related to something else, right? If you're not doing anything seemingly in the moment, you're not having contact with someone, and the anxiety comes out of nowhere, what I find usually happens is it was a thought. It was a thought of mine that created that anxiety. Who was I thinking about? What was I thinking about, right? That was the source of the anxiety. That anxiety is like a warning signal for you. Something's not right. Something's not right there. Right? So stop engaging. As soon as you feel that overwhelming anxiety, stop, take a break, separate yourself from that, you know, go do something else totally different, go move your body, go dance, go walk, go run, do something, yoga, something with your body to move your actual body, right? So that things in your mind start shifting, and then come back to that and decide if you actually want to respond to that and how you want to respond to that, or if you want to respond with no contact. You know, because as soon as you notice this person is toxic and they're trying to like hook you into these arguments, and they're always justifying why you should defend yourself and why this and that and the other, you're just going to waste so much time and energy there, and it's going to cause you more and more and more anxiety, because your body is like literally trying to tell you this is dangerous for you, this is not safe for you. So you can utilize the PTSD as a superhero power if you approach it from a conscious perspective, right? Versus allowing it to control you unconsciously, right? That's the thing with PTSD, is it can be healed. You have to enter there with like super consciousness, right? You have to be able to see it as an observer, as a witness, and utilize that for your benefit versus letting it take you over and take over your system, right? Like when, you know, the dread attacks come on. I did a special video about that, how to deal with the PTSD dread. If that kind of thing happens, I recommend checking that out, because that's something a little bit different. That is the past haunting you, right? But also usually a sign that whatever you're thinking about is reminding you of the past, right? Possibly another dangerous situation, something that's just not healthy for you. So learn to utilize your PTSD as a superhero power, and learn to trust your intuition. Okay, it just happens to be that your anxiety barometer is like way turned up compared to the average person, just as your hypervigilance is. So use that to your advantage, right? And what's going to happen, what I noticed at first when I started dating again after taking 9 months off after the last experience, when I started dating again, I noticed I was hypervigilant of things that appeared to be gaslighting, like hypervigilant. And what I would do was immediately question it. I would immediately ask the person, so what did you mean by that? So, when you did this, I was just curious what you meant, or what your intention was when you said this or that. And then I would be very present in your body as you're listening to this person. Like, listen to the words for sure, because sometimes people reveal themselves in their words, right? But really listen to what your body is sensing, because the body doesn't lie. Their body doesn't lie unless they have been trained, you know, to maintain the way that their body can lie to you. But very few people can actually do that. You know, it's like the most skilled sociopath that can do that sort of thing. But your body is your primary barometer, right? Your body will tell you if you get an icky feeling, if your stomach drops, if you feel like you want to throw up, if you feel like your heart is beating like crazy and it's going into your head like you were describing. I get that sometimes too. That's an anxiety feeling, right? However your body is telling you, listen to your body. Don't doubt yourself, no matter what you're seeing on the external appearance out there from that person. You have to trust yourself first. You have to. That is a huge part of recovery from codependency, is trusting yourself first. Your self-care first, right? You have to believe yourself first. The trouble is, as a codependent, putting other people first all your life, it's gonna look like a much more noble decision to put the other person first, to give them the benefit of the doubt, to second guess yourself, to self-doubt, you know, and listen to what they're saying. You don't wanna do that, because you always see that your intuition was right. And the more you listen to your intuition and act upon your intuition immediately, even when you have no proof, the stronger your sense of self-trust will be. And that is a huge part of recovering from PTSD, from codependency, from abusive relationships. Okay, the other thing I want to tell you about the intuition too is, like, if you don't act on your intuition and you stay in it because you're giving the other person the benefit of the doubt, but you felt something, sooner or later you will have the proof. The question is, how much did you get hurt in the process, right? Because it is inevitable harm. Hanging out around someone without a conscience, someone whose conscience doesn't work like yours and they're able to manipulate people, inevitable harm. Could be a little bit of a harm, could be a lot of harm, right? It could be any of that. It's gonna be inevitable harm. If you really feel like you gotta stick around to see the proof, just know that you're setting yourself up to be hurt, right? So keep that in mind, and keep in mind that when you choose your intuition first, you might not always have proof. In fact, you might never get the proof, right? Except that what happens, what I usually find later, is that I listen to my intuition, I say no, I put the boundary down, I never really get immediate proof from that person, but I know, because I have the intuition. And then what happens is, after going no contact, in the next couple weeks, you'll start having the flashbacks of that relationship. You know, even if it was just a little bit of texting on Facebook or something, you will have the flashbacks, and that's your sign. Like, if you're having the flashbacks and they're triggering the anxiety and all that, that's the PTSD. That means that something happened that hurt you. That's your sign. Something wasn't right. If you just keep rehashing this conversation you had with them, or this thing that they did, or this event that happened, that's your sign. That's all the proof that you need. You really need to start trusting yourself for the sense of approval and the sense of validation. Like, you got to give that to yourself instead of looking for it outside yourself, because the danger is that the person eventually will validate that you're right, but they're going to hurt you in the process. They're never going to tell you that you're right? But they're going to do something that hurts you, and you're going to know then that your intuition was right, but by then it's too late. You've already been hurt. So listen to your intuition and utilize the PTSD as a superhero power instead of letting it use you. I'm sending you a big hug.